this time. Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Kettier, it's four. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Arsenal Podcast, aka the Hector Bellerin of Arsenal Podcast. My name is Mike Hers, your host. Today we're going to chat a little bit about the Manchester City game, the media windfall after that, and of course the recent win versus Port Vale in the EFL Cup. Maybe we chat about whether we care about the title or we don't care about the title. I know our good friend Chris isn't here tonight with us, Kelly, but he's on record and he says this, and he's holding firm on this take. He couldn't give a shit about this cup. My hot take, and he does say that it's an unpopular opinion for the benefit, right? That to give him. My take is that we haven't won it, and we haven't won anything. So who the shit are we to say a cup is too small? But we'll get into it. 2-man pod, hoping to keep this one short, sweet, and concise. Kelly, welcome back, Kelly.
Yep, thanks, man. I don't have a giant growth on my eyelid this time, so it's it's
wins all around.
More comfortable. But I'm not drinking, so it's in some ways less comfortable too. But it's kind of like I don't blame nobody else for like running to this one. I mean, again, this is going to be a quick in and out. We're going to have it be nice and easy breezy, just like Arsenal away at Port Vale. We're just going to have the handbrake on and just cruise through this one and just do a nice professional podcast in midweek, I think.
A nice professional 2-0 win of podcast is what we're aiming for today. Yes. Let's get the show on the road. Short and sweet, like we said. We're going to talk about the starting lineup versus Manchester City just because it raised a few eyebrows. A lot of people were discussing the midfielder. That was the big thing, right? Because we were 50-50 with Odegaard inclusion. Merino, Zubimendi, Rice. We were kind of already having a little bit of a negative way of looking at that. I mean, we managed to beat Athletic Club in the Champions League, and it was all right. But versus City at home, I think the fan base had more of the expectations of reaching out, grabbing it, and maybe the whole, was it 5-1 last season, Kelly, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it was a 5-1 paddling at home last year. So.
I think after the Liverpool thing and the whole handbrake on, and a lot of people were able to justify it, saying, hey, it's away at Anfield. It's a difficult game to manage. To then, again, and then back to back, 3 times in a row. Then you go get Bilbao and you think to yourself, again, away game in Spain, first game in Champions League for many years, first game for their stadium. Okay, we understand this approach. And then you make it back home. Back home, you got 60,000 supporters behind you, cheering you, and you want to see another massive win to keep close to Liverpool, who had already won. And unfortunately, Kelly, we got Zubimendi, Merino, and Rice one more time, and it didn't quite reach out to that. So is it confirmed failure for you at this point, Kelly, or do you think horses for courses on this?
No, I think there's a couple of different things. One, I think that Arteta's mentality is probably not caught up to the actual the players that we have now. I mean, we've invested, well into the 9 figures with a lot of high-end attackers, and we still are going to these matches like it's, 2, 3, 4 years ago, where we're setting up really, really defensive, and kind of like the goal seems to be a 0-0 or 1-1 draw, which we've talked about this ad nauseum. I think that's probably the most valid criticism that we all can and do have about Arteta is just he's spectacular at, snuffing out the lights and giving you very, very little, but in elite games, sometimes you got to win them. And I think it's just, we have the players both in the front and the back to be a little bit more ambitious. And here's the other thing that I think factored into this is that I do think that he wants to, especially with the deep squad, he's being more cognizant of meritocracy, I think. And people who are playing well, he will like find a way to get them in there. And he's trying to reward impact players with starts. And I think at this point, we need to largely be playing our best, most balanced team. And we can move a piece or two in and out. But like all of us, when we looked at that lineup, went, oh God, we just don't have enough sprint speed or ball progress. We don't have enough dynamism in attack, and we don't have enough ball progression. And when you pick Marino, Zubimendi, Rice, and Trossard in the same team at home, I suppose he was probably pretty surprised by how dour Pep was, which again, I can't even, we're trying to do a short podcast, so I can't do 10 minutes on that guy's sociopathy today. Like, he's just a complete, like, I'm sure he's a terrible person in real life. He's just constantly looks like he's like reaching in your wallet to try to steal your money, like when he's talking to you. But like, we just kind of expected this to happen, and it was like this kind of blah, unimaginative lineup just did exactly what we thought they were going to do, which is play dull, unimaginative football. And when you're playing against Erling Haaland, I mean, he scores most games he plays, so you can't just assume you're going to stink out a 0-0, especially at home, especially having already gotten bit with the same tactics away at Liverpool, basically.
Yeah, okay, so on the consistency, you know how like we always often say, at least I found myself saying this in the past, where Mikel Arteta has a different perspective on players and what they do within the team than what we see as.
Yeah.
And so we see Merino go away. I feel like we're rehatching the conversation versus Bilbao. We see Merino go away to Spain, play this beautiful football, score 3 goals, and everybody's like, oh my God, he's an attacking midfielder to away, not extensively like Odegaard in the sense. But I think he's proven to be a really good finisher and kind of a sucky midfielder thus far. That's my honest opinion. So hilariously, within balance, the times that he's played as striker for us versus the time he played either left or right in our midfielder, it thus far to me seems very Danny Ceballos-ish. Yeah. And I know that might be, like too much, too far, but I'm failing to see, his fit in the midfield. I have to ask you, Kelly, I mean, why not Waneri? I know Chris would be the perfect person to ask this question because he was going for bat hardcore for Waneri last season more so than me during the summer. But you would think, right, if we're just plug and play type of style, we had our left eight that starts, we had Zubimendi who starts at the base. The natural follow-up to Odegaard is Ethan Waneri. And when we are going to talk about Port Vale a little bit, and we do understand that he played, but it just felt like putting mediocrity on the side, it does, I hope I didn't butcher that word, it does seem like he was next at bat, so to say. Yeah. He's the next one up in the absence of Odegaard. Top of that, Eze is missing from the starting lineup in the one position that we're expecting to have him. So let's focus on Ethan Waneri not starting this game. Do you think the occasion was just a little bit too big for him? Or was it one of those things where, like, let's mention the handbrake line one more time and say, I think, it was relinquishing a little bit too much control for Arteta, comfortable to be.
Look, you play with the handbrake off. No, like, it's he trusts Marino. Marino's old. Marino's been around. Marino is somebody he's comfortable with. I think Marino is one of those players, like a lot of longtime managers, and I think it's not just Arteta, but it's other ones. Like you wish that you could just take away this one player that doesn't seem to work all that well or all that frequently, but the manager absolutely loves for reasons you can't quite see. And I mean, Marino is basically a first 11 player for Spain, who's one of the best international teams in the world. He's incredibly productive there. But whatever the combination of players and playing style within Arsenal kind of seems to bring out the worst in him a lot of the time. So it makes him look slow and ponderous. It seems like everybody else is like running back to recover structure, and he's not able to get there. When we play him up higher, we play a lot of balls into channels, and he just can't physically run to those spaces. So I'm fully aware that Mikel Merino is a good player, and he seems like a great like locker room guy and conduit to the manager. But whatever he does on the football pitch just doesn't seem to jive. At least like if, at first blush, aesthetically, it just looks like such an awkward fit. And this is a match too that we were able to hold City to very little, and like we just didn't. Look at their lineup. They had Doku, who's been an unbelievable form this year. Yeah. Reinders, who, I mean, you're very familiar with him. Like, he's a very good attacking midfielder. He's a dreadful, disinterested defensive player. Bernardo Silva was playing as an inside midfielder, and I understand that he's a forward, but he's just kind of like a slash player that just is kind of kind of a jitterbug midfielder. And then Rodri is not. I'm not convinced that Rodri will come back and be the player he was before. He hasn't been yet, and he wasn't in this match. And you have a pretty, other than Ruben Dias, like flawed defenders. Kusanov's a fucking disaster, and O'Reilly's pretty young and is not particularly impressive anyway. So like, with all of our structure, we could really afford to have somebody besides Calafiori there to be the kind of and like Madueke, who plays, is basically it's him or Saka, obviously. Like this is a match that we very easily could have accommodated somebody who's actually going to take shots and progress the ball and be a little bit more dynamic in between the lines. And frankly, like the amount of investment and time we spend in structure, if you can accommodate like a second midfielder, a second attacker who's actually going to attack primarily, you just run the risk of this exact same thing to happen. So I think it was a really big unforced error. I think it was really obvious. And it's not just like negative Nelly lineup chasers beforehand going, what? Because there's plenty of those. It's like, why in the hell does Victor Gyökeres start again? He hasn't scored in 2 matches. It's like not like that. It's nothing like that. It's why don't you just play your backup right 8 in that position because he plays in a similar way and he's more of an attacker. Like, why do you put your big kind of stodgy combo midfielder there that can't run and can't progress the ball to pass and can't really dribble either? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like that would be definitely one of those things where you kind of look and say, like, what did you expect to transpire here? Because we weren't even like really set up to like be like lobbing in crosses and having him attack the back post either. Like he's very left-footed, so like he's not going to do that on the right side. It just was like it was a really, really bad piece of selection that looked bad and worked bad. And I think it was more to do with giving Marino his props for being a really good international player and being in good international form and like doing stuff for the team. And like we don't need to be giving charity starts out when we're playing against City in one of our biggest matches of the season at home. We really don't. We don't need to be giving attaboy starts out. That's stupid and wasteful.
Yeah. And not only on the attaboy starts, and just because you started off the monologue saying that you were going to Mikel Arteta was kind of digging into somebody that he knew and that was reliable, and I understand all of that. And I'm just as big as a Leandro Trossard fan out there as you could imagine. I rate this player highly. I stand by his highlight reel of 2 seasons ago when we pushed for the league. He had some clutch goals throughout the entire season, and I rate him very highly. He scored again. I call him the grown up in the room.
Yeah.
However, talking about an easy layup, if Ethan Ranieri wasn't starting at 10 and it was going to be Merino, the least bet you could assume that the left 8 role was going to go to the person that's been playing left 8 that was arguably bought to take Martinelli's and Trossad's starting spot. And surprisingly, and I mean surprisingly, because the more that I get the chance to see him play week in, week out, and again, might get bashed for this one. Again, I don't watch other teams a whole lot. I watch the teams. I see a few highlights from players, but I don't watch these teams week in, week out. So I had a really good idea that Eze was a great player, really good idea that he was, he came from the club, and it was easy to fall in love with the entire story of him coming back. But every time I see him play football for our club, I'm like, my goodness, what a player we have on our ends. And again, just that first half, that starting lineup. Listen, I don't know if it played a massive part in like the atmosphere at the Emirates, but I can't for the life of me understand why not as they started on the left. I think it was Dean that says as it starting was probably the no-brainer that Mikel Galaxy brained. Yep. And it kind of really does kind of feel like he Galaxy brained it. And we're going to talk about the game right now, Kelly, just as far as us having this is, historically low, maybe not historically high for us, but historically low for Manchester City. Was it like 36, 37% precision?
We had 2/3 of the ball, so 67% to 33%. We had almost double the amount of passes they had. Okay. We were far more accurate with our passes, and we had 12 shots to their 5. But three on target for both of us, though, which is a
3 on target for both of us. Okay, so here's my take on the game as a whole. I think this is one of those situations where it could be a confirmation bias on both ends, which if you're already walking into the season with already a little bit of a negative output on the manager, you're kind of thinking Manchester City is allowing us to have the ball.
Yeah.
And if you're walking in with this perspective that we might potentially win the league this year, and you have full trust in the manager and in the process and everything, you're looking at it and say, "Holy shit, we dominated the City, one of the best teams." Now Pep Guardiola, take what he says at face value, whether you choose to say it or not. He's been coming up with some very sarcastic comments, but today, I saw one extended one, not just a sound bite, not just like a one-liner quote that kind of tends to remove things out of context. And he swears about it. He kind of expanded on the idea and said, he was like, "Hey man, listen, we have the same game plan going into these things. We want to play a very certain way, which is expansive, fast football that, with high XG and whatnot." Simply put, he says Arsenal just did not allow it. Hence why they end up playing the game with, I think, six defenders. It was playing deep. I'll admit this: we've never seen Manchester City defend the way that they defended, so I wasn't expecting it. It did catch me off guard. So I guess, Kelly, where are you sitting on this? Are you thinking we did it to Manchester City, or are you thinking they allowed us to do it?
I think that both Pep and Mikel really alter what they do after the first goal is scored. And so I think that we see from Manchester City and Arsenal both that if we get a really good, we're playing really well, and then we get a first goal, we'll completely change how we're playing. And that can be frustrating to not get the second goal. And I think we'll maybe touch on that a little bit on the Port Vale match too. Like, they just will go and totally change what they're doing, and they don't push for a second. I think organically City will score more because they have the best striker in the world. Like Isak can cost as much money as he wants, but he's not like Holland's the best striker in the world. I don't think it's particularly close. But like, I think we always intend, one of our clear, obvious goals is to smother and recover and possess. Like, or that I feel like you could tattoo that on Arteta's throat. Like, Mappe Leon has her like fucking weird tattoo on her throat. Like, Mikel Arteta wants to stop you from getting possession of the ball. When you do have it, he wants to recover the entire team into a strict formation, and then he wants to get it back and not give the ball back to you, which is why we don't concede any goals. But the problem is that, like, it's kind of the antidote. Remember when Liverpool would just like kick the ball to you and then press you? Or like, maybe a better example is like Pochettino Spurs would literally just kick the ball to you so that they could press you and take it off of you and try to score. Like, we basically don't do that. And I think we really do it less without Havertz and Odegaard playing there, because they are, there's no evidence so far that Gyökeres is the type of presser that Havertz can be. He's not supposed to be, but like, that element does not exist without Kai like running his hole off and running his body into the ground, like all over the pitch the entire time. And again, I don't think whoever you play at that other position, I don't think he presses quite as well as Odegaard. So I think without those two players, we don't have a press. And so it ends up being this really, really sterile lock pick. But that's the other point too, is like, if you look and you're not going to have your pressers, like, why would you, and you're going to have a sterile lock pick, like literally your two best lock pickers are going to be Eze and Wanyeri. So like, not playing them just means that you're trying to pick a lock instead of using like finite small tools. You're trying to pick a lock with a fucking like mallet and a soldering iron. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, the tools aren't correct to try to do the job that's at hand. And I just like, whether Pep was actually going to go out there and stink this one up, I don't know. But I think he felt like he was playing with house money a little bit. And like, truly just looking at it, I mean, like, Kusanov and O'Reilly and whatever this interior version of Guardiola, when he's not able to just like float up there and like shoot from the left back position, like, that's not a particularly great defense. So I think it was one of those things where it's like, before they get start making their changes and get wind of what's happening in this match, like, let's try to kill out the first half. And if we are not getting our second goal by 60 minutes, we're going to sit on this thing and see if we can see it out. Like, I think it's just it was an evolving tactic, kind of. I'm sure they wanted to get more possession. They wanted to go. They didn't really get on top of it. But like, nobody gets on top of it with Arsenal. But the problem is, like, the goal is not to see how many touches inside. There's always a stat that goes around too, Mike, that it's starting to drive me nuts in the same way that XG drives you nuts, which is touches in the opponent's box. And so a big thing, it's like Arsenal has had, like, in this match, it was something, it's like Arsenal had like 36 touches in the opponent's box, 38 touches in the opponent's box, and City had 8. It's like, okay, great. I don't think it's a good reflection of how we play football that we have 38 touches and like 10 shots. Like, that's not good. If we go into the box like more times than not and just don't even attempt a shot, nonetheless having it be on goal, that's bad. However we got those touches, however we progress the ball into the box, it's not in a dangerous spot. Like, there's a difference between having Gyökeres with a tap in at the 6-yard box, like Eze created last match at home in the league, and Trossard sitting out on the wing with 3 defenders that can reach out and touch him. Like, it doesn't matter if he has 6 touches in the box there, because who fucking cares? Like, he can't do anything with that, and he's not going to. So, like, there's just the balance has been generally kind of off between like real threat and just sterile possession around the 18. And I think we're maybe seeing the kind of final boss of the flaw in the machinery kind of right now. And so it's either going to be a lot more of this shit where it's like, okay, we're going to try to win this match 0-0 kind of, because we literally cannot score or do anything. And we're going to make every game this like slog and just be like, okay, well, if you're either going to tie us, we're going to get you off by the one or first or second off goal that we'll just kind of create, or you're going to have to fucking kill us, because we're just going to sit here and just smother this match out. And like, that sounds off. Like, I don't get, truth be told, if we give up 16 goals this entire year and we just attritionally win every game 1-0 and like just smother out the league, it's gonna be miserable to watch, but I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think that's gonna happen, because football is not this. There's too much talent in the league to do that anymore. Like, you can't do what Chelsea did that year and give up like 14 goals or 8 goals the entire year, whatever the hell that was. And like, if you're gonna play like that, you better win everything. And if you're gonna spend 200 million on attackers and then play every match like it's like you're bunkering in World War I trench warfare, like, you better fucking win, because it's really god awful to watch, and it's probably god awful to play in, and it just doesn't work a lot of the time. The stopping people from shooting, that's good, but we have the talent and we have the ability to concede a few more shots, which means probably a few more goals throughout the year, and then not having 9 guys watching Leandro Trossard trying to do keepy uppies in the box and dribble around 4 of the best and most well-compensated footballers on the planet. Like, that can't be an actual solution.
Yeah, that's kind of how I ended up with the name Calculator Euphoria for this, because like, it's slow paced. Everything is well calculated. They strangle you little by little, and then a Euphoria, because like it's kind of one of we sit here having played 7 matches or 8 matches in the entire season, won like 5-6 of them, drew 1, lost 1, whatever the stat is exactly. And so we're winning a whole lot. We're not against popular, belief, the league isn't over yet. It's still really early days, so it's kind of one of those things that where you could like, it's easy to catch up on, right? We just need to, as you know, I'm gonna take a jab here. We just need Liverpool to stop being so lucky and getting last minute winners, and eventually you're gonna drop points, right? Everything indicates that there's possibility that they could drop points. They should have. It's one of those things where if Southampton would have took their chances today, they would have been down 2-0. Instead they found themselves 1-0 up. And once again, past the 80th minute, they scored another goal.
Yeah.
2-1 for the win.
As is their birthright.
As if their birthright, yes. Very, very frustrating by all means. But I do think that BX Spooner brings up a good comment. I may not agree with the verbiage that he uses, but I love myself some BX, and I'm always here for his comments. The whole pressing, inverting, playing out of the back is nonsense. The game plan must be altered to fit the needs of our stars, not the manager's ego. Now, it's the last bit that I don't, him and I don't see eye to eye, but I think there's something to that, man. Like, you can't, again, unless we'll move on to the next little topic at hand, just because Gyökeres kind of came under some scrutiny after the Manchester City game. He's not that type of player. He's also, apparently they're clocking him a little bit less. He's a little bit slower nowadays than he was at Sporting. I couldn't tell you why, but this whole, very low touch type of thing in which he barely is able to get the ball within the the box. He did have one opportunity, I think, came from a Trossard's pass, but he wasn't up. The ball went slightly behind him. But these are the type of games where you kind of like, I would say, Kelly, you just kind of assume that your striker's not going to get a lion's share of the ball. I didn't see any stats in per se. I know if Chris was here, I would start hearing his keyboard. But from what I could see, it's not like fucking Haaland had a shitload of touches on the ball.
No,
he just had a really good counterattack with a lot of space. It seems like Gabriel was caught up a little bit further up the pitch. Saliba really couldn't be at two places at once.
Calafiori was on the moon.
Calafiori plays very like Calafiori belongs in an Ange Postecoglou team.
For real.
He is, I mean, he's a left back in spirit, Kelly, but in position, my goodness.
He literally wasn't even in frame. Like even like when that counter was there ostensibly. And I understand that this is his remit, and I think this is probably like Arteta's a bit like he's a little bit of an antidote player for Arteta to like, okay, this is going to be really structured, but you can kind of wander around and create overloads. The problem with having somebody in a defensive capacity run around, I think it's twofold. One is that we don't have an athletic defensive midfielder. We have a metronomic defensive midfielder. So it's like back to the Granit Xhaka days when he played in like more of a single pivot, right? So like really good passer. We've seen, 2 goal contributions, which is really good. Tough player, but he does not run back very well. So when you get past him, it's not the same as playing Declan Rice there, who's a power athlete that can, nobody can really run down Haaland, I don't think, in the open field in the world, but I think he creates a lot more problems. Like at the back end in that kind of position, like possession turnover, like you really see some of the physical limitations that prevent Zubimendi from being like one of the best players in the world, right? Is that he's just kind of small and kind of slow. And that's an example of that. And so when you have those two playing together, it means that that's the soft spot in the armor. There's always a soft spot everywhere, like in every team. And that's where it is for us, because Calafiori does wander, and he's not, even if he was in position, he's not a great angle defender like off ball defender. And then you can get somebody to run into that space. And that's it. I suppose maybe that's Arteta coming. If obviously Mikel Arteta is one of the people that's watching this, he's probably saying, see, that's why you wonder why I'm playing so defensive. That's why it could have been 3 of those if I didn't play the team I played. But yeah, man, I don't have a ton of problems with that goal. My issue is that we didn't score 2 other ones. You know what I mean? Like
that's sound. That's a safe
I know that's why everybody tunes in for that kind of kind of high level analysis from me. But like, it's when it takes everything in you and you're playing like 8 forwards to get a single goal, which is just like a main line. And this is something I actually do agree with BX. Like probably a match when they have bad defenders to like just whack it over the top some. And like, if they're going to come and press, like draw them onto you and stand on the ball and then just start whacking it over them. And they can't, like, you watch Gigi Donnarumma a ton. Like that man cannot come off his line and sweep. Like he's a fucking refrigerator. He's a great shot stopper, but he can't kick. He can barely kick a ball unless he's kicking as hard as he can up the pitch. And he certainly doesn't sweep. So there's like plenty of opportunity. There was plenty of opportunity with that back for whatever stage of recovery Rodri's in, and then like Donnarumma, to like go really direct with them and be fine, probably be really like menacing and just know like, okay, well, if they turn it over, they can try to possess it. But like, okay, we have like some of the best defenders in the entire world here. So like, cool, that's fine. We'll do that. And once they had 1 goal, I don't know that they were particularly interested in attacking either. The second half, they didn't fucking do anything deliberately. So like,
not at all. No, second half came the subs, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the introduction of Eze, who surprisingly didn't go at left 8, but he ended up playing at right. Bukayo Saka came in. I don't know if Bukayo Saka was planned for halftime. He was most likely forced in there by the injury of Madueke, which, by the way, watching it live, you see Mikel Arteta pull out Madueke, and you're just upset, right? Because he was one of the most menacing players. He's very hard to mark.
Mm-hmm.
He's quick with his feet, creating chances. And when you see Saka come in and Trossard stayed, you're just thinking like, oh my God, Mikel, what are you doing?
Fuck?
So with the benefit of hindsight, of course, Madueke, now within the league, it's 1 injury per game.
like a significant injury, not like a throwaway. It's not like
Not a knock. No.
no, like a true injury, like a relatively long-term injury for a first 11 player every single league match.
One thing I find curious about just the wording of the reporting that Miguel Arteta said is he said that he felt something bad. He said early in the first half, and it kind of gave me the sense that Nani felt something.
Yeah,
he was in pain and said, "Well, I can't just fucking quit right now." That's what I'm getting. If I'm taking what Miguel Arteta said verbatim, that's my thing. Is like Nani chose to play through pain. Did he aggravate it? Potentially.
Probably trying to get to halftime, honestly. He was,
yeah.
But a lot of times I think if you have like a knock or like a twist or a tweak or whatever, I think that there are things that they can do to get them to halftime, right? Like once you get to halftime, you can probably get, if you need to have an injection, if you need to get a whatever quick checkout, if you need to get a bunch of lidocaine, like I'm sure there's plenty of stuff where if you're just doing like a muscle tweak or a little bit of a twist, you get to halftime, ice it up, they look at it and we're all fine. And also like, Nani probably didn't expect to be like starting and doing really well for Arsenal this quickly. So he's kind of on a heater. So like, I think he probably didn't want to come out for that reason too. It's like, geez, like I got my chance here. I'm playing really well. Like I don't want to come out unless I know for a fact I'm like actually hurt. But anybody who's played sports and everything too, like you can feel something, you kind of, that's a little bit of a twist. And then you keep going. And it's most of the time, like 9 out of 10 times, like it is just a little bit of a twist or a knock and you run it off and you're fine. And it's sore the next day. It's not a big deal. But that one time out of 10, you've actually done something and it gets worse and worse. And then you go like, shit. And I think he was so close to halftime by the time the oh shit moment happened. He just kind of hobbled around until he came in.
Just a quick question before we move on to the Martinelli goal. Just because I'm trying to rationalize, is it not starting? Do you think there's any truth whatsoever at all in which Eze might potentially be acclimatizing to a little bit more difficult calendar?
I mean, very possibly. I think we have to be cognizant of, I think it's probably not a bad thing for us to be more cautious with our big investments. And I think that even like the same thing, we basically are not able to be particularly cautious with Gyökeres right now, but we're seeing like earlier subs than he probably needs and he probably wants to continue to play or like to score goals, right? It's like, shit, man, you're playing me. I'm running my hole off until 70 minutes and you're pulling me. Like, this is when I score my tap-ins and this is where I make my money, right? Like I've earned this. But I think when you're transitioning people into a new system with new responsibilities, I think it's very clear that especially in that left wing role, Eze is expected to do a lot more tracking back and defending and a lot more duels than he was on in more of a 3-5-2 or a 3-5-1-1 at Palace. He was able to kind of float in and out playing as more of an interior role. So I think it's probably just kind of not overextending him. And like there's a real thing now too where like we got players dropping like flies to some degree too. So it's like, well, I mean, if he's in the red or he's looking a little bit tired or he's getting beat up a little bit more on that left thing than we thought, do we really want to run him up against it's Phil Foden there? So we could have Phil Foden. You would have been fine then. But like that is one of those things where I also just a little sneaky thing. I kind of think that Trossard, I didn't bring this up when we talked about Trossard. I think he really does hate City a lot. And I think he really hates Bernardo Silva. So like there might be something of that too, is like Arteta's too close to him. And so like even with their little like there'd be like I'm pretty sure that Trossard really hates him and doesn't like was probably very motivated and said kind of like let me at him. Because like he was the one who talked dumbass Michael Oliver into giving the second yellow last year for the kicking thing. After he ran into Silva and he pretended to be hurt, just like he pretended to be hurt 8,000 times in this match. And then when he was stretching out his leg, he threw the ball at his head. And then, of course, Trossard threw the ball at his balls. And they should have both gotten yellow cards. But if they would have given a yellow card, it would have been Silva's second yellow and he would have been red carded. So they didn't want to do that.
They don't want to ruin the spectacle, sir.
They don't want to ruin the spectacle. They wouldn't want to do something like that. So, like, I do think, and again, I'm like stone cold sober, but like maybe the best parting gift before we go and sell Trossard eventually or his contract runs out is to just give him carte blanche to just go right through. Bernardo Silva one time. Just go like waist high with both of his cleats, like a drop kick.
Return
and just
leg. We're waiting for it.
Just see if he can dislocate his hip and just put him out for all. Because like that's another guy too. And I'm gonna soapbox a little bit. He's a complete, like a horrible person. Like anytime you interview him
100%.
before the game, like he's always like really, really snide and whiny. I mean, during the match, but it's like not like it's one of those things where he's like a prick during the match, but they shake his hand afterwards. I think he's just a little greasy little shitbag. Like tries to get people sent off. He's a complainer. He talks he says horrible things about all the teams he's playing against before and after everything. I think he's just but again, Pep's a fucking horrible person too. So I think they're just like, that's his conduit on the pitch, like a really snide, mean, cynical victim baby that wants to go and kind of wants to like hurt you and lie about you and make you feel shitty while he's sitting on this giant pile of lies for his entire career. But anyway, that's a complete sidebar. Like if I'm Mikel, here's your parting. This is as good as a $500,000 bonus. You can go and slide tackle Bernardo Silva from behind as hard as you want, wherever you want, and we will support you. We'll bail you out of jail if it comes to that. It's fine.
And he did have the nerve to say after the game that it wasn't fair that they had 24 hours left to rest.
Can you?
So like it's just
the
like
audacity.
You said, yeah, that's what it is, Kelly. I think it's just the consistency, the audacity. Before we get to the Martinelli point, which is the high point of this conversation, the Manchester City, I do think it was kind of BS in a sense, and there was like a handful of journalists that kind of pointed out that the hypocrisy of the English media in which Man City get. And I saw a headline saying that it would have been a masterstroke of Man City had they won 1-0.
God.
And I was like, where the fuck was that when Arsenal was down to 10 men for 60 minutes at Etihad? Like we didn't get that sympathy, and I just thought it was absolutely outrageous. And to just piggybacking on like the things that they're allowed to say, because I have a feeling that if insert Arsenal player here complained about having 24 hours less of rest, I don't think the media would have been like, fuck, brilliant point, Declan Rice. I don't think that's how that would have been handled in the media. So it is very frustrating. I'm at the point, and I understand that I'm an Arsenal supporter, but like I feel like saying that we're not treated different in the media is like, I feel like it's a stretch, and I think it's like obvious enough for people to kind of look at it like Sky Sports posting a picture celebrating Neketike, doing the Messi celebration as if it wasn't a 80-something minute winner versus a second division team that got him a fucking red card.
Yeah.
And like, if you just, again, if you flip that, if that was an Arsenal moment, if you would have flipped that and did that with Nani, with Eze, they would have been torn into pieces. You could take it or leave it, Kelly. You could expand on that if you like. I know we're getting close to that hour mark that we discussed. If not, let's move on to the marvelous man that is known as one Martinelli. He came in as super sub,
our favorite,
top of our attack. This was a very almost a Wenger-ish, like, I'm just gonna throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, but it was a throwback.
It was a throwback. It was a throwback moment, and sure enough, dude, literally, having been on the field just for a handful of minutes, was it Calafiori that put the ball over him? Who gave him the pass? Help me remember this. Eze. Oh yeah. Duh. Beautiful pass from Eze, playing on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Martinelli spectacularly controls it, and I could only say like the fucking audacity of Martinelli taking that shot, chipping a goalkeeper of the stature of Donnarumma, and Donnarumma kind of knew he was defeated halfway through the shot, and the steel frames were absolutely marvelous. Can we convince this kid, with all the love that he's professed for Arsenal publicly, do you think he's fine in this role coming in the last 10-15 minutes, different type of game state, maybe, tired legs, potentially ready to pounce and score?
Yeah, I think this is maximizing what he can do. And I think you and I specifically get very frustrated, especially in a more controlled environment. It exacerbates the things that he cannot do. But when we're pushing for a goal and there is space there and we are willing to finally be more direct and not be so tippy-tappy, I think that highlights what he can do very well, which is he runs very fast in a straight line. I think when he is confident, he will try audacious finishes and be really direct and decisive. I think probably putting him on the left wing and giving him tons of he's obviously not suited for that specific left wing role, especially if we're going to have tons of control of the ball. It just is not something that suits him. And it's just because he doesn't have, it has nothing to do with the desire of the heart or the intention or anything. He just doesn't have the technical level to be able to do that. But certainly, if you give him a ball over the top to run into, and especially is able to run maybe out to in a little bit, that's something he's very comfortable with. And that's it's an amazing finish. I think I saw, this is another, to take this magic moment away from you, Mike, and turn it into a stat thing. I think it was like, of the time that somebody shoots from there in that type of situation, like you'd expect, like 1 out of every 15 or 16 times it's going to go in the goal. And choosing that type of finish was exactly the right finish because it gives Donnarumma no chance to put one of his giant limbs in front of that thing. But it's also an incredibly difficult finish. And I think for as much stick as you and I have given him for the things that he cannot do, this is a prime example of how best to use that player. And again, whether this is his last season at Arsenal, whether this is the start of things, and he ends up being like a really effective super sub who's doing double-digit goals and is an invaluable part of a really, really good team that wins stuff, which I would love to see. This is how to use him. This is the blueprint. And if we use him correctly and put him in positions where he can succeed more readily and he starts succeeding, you can... I mean, even today against Port Vale too, I understand it's Port Vale, but even in a position that he's not as good in, he was a lot more decisive and acted quicker and a lot less pitter patter on the ball and a lot more direct. And I think that just comes from being like he rescued this entire week with having the contributions that were required of really jammy game states. And I think that is valuable. To have your super sub or your sub forward who's going to be in that position in a lot of big matches come in and be like, I'm going to score. I'm going to score because I've done it before. And his teammates are going to go, okay, well, I'm going to give him balls that he can score on because he's done it before. There's nothing that quite creates more success than the confidence from having success. So I think it bodes well for the season and for him, even if I don't love him playing on the left wing in a possession role. I don't think that's where he's going to be used in the majority of the most meaningful matches this year. So it should be fine.
And just on the not playing his best position, it seems like maybe potentially centrally might be a little bit more his style.
We thought we got it today, Mikey.
We're transitioning to the Port Vale game real quick. We could talk about this briefly because it's mostly about the starting lineup that we want to discuss. I think there's a lot of good things from the starting lineup, and there's small rumors in which Timber might potentially not be fit for Newcastle. I think it was very important for Ben White to get 80 plus minutes. Lest we forget, the Saliba still came back from a little bit of an injury, so the start with City and playing the full 90 was a little bit of a stretch for him. So one more game under his belt. Saka played a substantial amount of minutes. I think it was good all around, and then you got the missing pieces, right? When Neri got his minutes, Dalman got to run out. Norgard got the opportunity to get out. Kepa made his debut this season, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there was a good amount of all-around really good feelings. But my goodness, when we saw Eze, Merino, and Martinelli on that starting lineup, Kelly, we're like, surely this is opportunity. Eze gets to start at left wing. Yeah. Merino plays at right wing where he has been playing in the last 3 games. And we get Martinelli in the middle. And man, does Mikel Arteta like taking the piss on the hopes and dreams of Brazilians all the way out there? I'm looking at you. And
I'm sorry, bro.
Man, we did not see this coming. And it was another very calculated type of game in which I think the majority of the frustration that came from a lot of the supporters, because it seems like we were so stale and so slow, Kelly, I think a lot of it just came from it was a very strong starting 11, despite 8 or 9 changes. At home, no, sorry, not at home, away, against a lower division team. I think we were kind of ready for another Leeds outing. Like, holy shit, we get to see our team score another 3-4 goals, get the emotions up. Everybody says Martinelli is an emotional player, and he needs to ride his highs, and he's riding a high right now. And unfortunately, Kelly, it just didn't play out like that. It was a very bold, dull type of game. Listen, you could also look at this like Manchester City also played a second division team away and also just won 2-0. I think Chelsea ended up winning 2-1. So just I know that the expectations are there that because they're from the second division, we're going to just run them over. But dude, fucking boring, Kelly. That's all.
Okay.
And you know, you can touch about the Port Vale game if you like, Kelly. But my question to you is just to wrap up the show, dear listener, right there in the live chat. If you guys want to tune into this, is this a title winning system in which our main goal seemingly is to not concede shots?
No. But
and that's the end of the show.
I won't. I'll be brief, but I won't be that brief. You've known me for too many years for that. I think that there is a problem with the patterns of how we play right now, and I think it's been shown in how close to the margins some of these matches have been. And I think there's more patience for when you do it against City or against Liverpool, and especially in Liverpool when you get. I even think that the Liverpool and City games almost balance out from each other because we scored like a worldie at the end of the match, and so did Liverpool. So like it's not like we hit the post 10 times and we had 17 shots on goal, and it was like we won earmuffs, Mike, but XG like 3-2 to whatever. Like it's just. There needs to be. There's not going to be a situation, and I certainly think there is a balance where we go and can win the league while still being like largely a ball dominant kind of defensive smothery team. But the balance is far too far towards putting our foot on top of the ball, and we just don't create enough separation to do that. And I think maybe, and this is maybe pie in this, maybe if you have Lamine Yamal, who's just going to go out there and create goals out of nowhere, or you have like, again, like maybe even Holland or something, and you just go, okay, like 5 times a match, we're just going to create a circumstances by which we're just going to kick it over the top and he's going to score 1, 2, or 3 of those. Like, I don't think we have Thierry. We don't have the best attacker in the world, the most prolific attackers in the world that can go and break that structure for a moment. Like basically what Salah can do, although their patterns create a lot more, but like we don't have the top 3 to 4 attacker in the world that has seen output at a high level and is going to do that. And I don't think that Gyökeres is going to be that. And I don't think Haya is going to be that when he comes back. And the closest we have is Saka, and he's not even a 20 goal a season in all comps guy. So like, I think we have the players to get our balance a lot better. Whether we're going to do it in time and find that balance within this season, it probably not, I guess. I don't know. It's one of those things that's so hard because I think Liverpool have already found that balance largely, and they've injected a ton of talent onto their team. And so it already worked last year. And so they can just do more of the same this year with even better players. And so I think there's time. It takes time to get that. But again, if it stays the way it's going now, no, Mike, I don't think this is more than it is probably isn't even an 80-point team, 82-point team right now, unless we find a way to be more dangerous more consistently. But I do think that the personnel the team ingredients and alterations, not huge, but reasonable alterations to our current patterns could create a team that can be in the kind of like high 80s for points this year. That's what I think.
No, that's a fair assessment. I think with the Liverpool thing is that they have a lot of less new pieces going on.
Yeah.
They're just trying to figure out, how Verts is going to fit in. Ekitike, they were never immensely like based around the striker. It's mostly with their wings. So I think there's a little bit less pieces that need to acclimate to the whole system. Because Arteta spoke about having to play a little bit more in order to figure out the timing of everybody around him. And the same goes with Gyökeres. We already figured that out. And I think, by the way, that's a very fair assessment of Gyökeres. Like, I don't fall for the media hype. I'm not calling him the best player in the world or anything like that. He had a fantastic couple of seasons in Sporting in Portugal, absolutely. But I don't think Seshko is shit, and I don't think Gyökeres is the best in the world just because Twitter tells me to.
Yeah,
I think that's a very fair fair and rational way of rating him. And, he's maybe top 5-ish, but I mean, even at that, that's a stretch. I could probably think of a few strikers top 5-ish that might potentially squeeze them out. So I think that's a fair assessment.
I think too that Gyökeres, we're not really, when you do that kind of a league, I think it's going to be one of those, and this is not satisfying at all, but like, we're going to need to see him probably play for an entire season to see whether he's somebody who's going to be kind of disappointing and score 11 or 12 goals. Or if he's going to really catch fire, or he's going to be one of those guys that just flat tracks the shitty play, which again, we need to go and beat the piss out of mid and lower table teams to accomplish what we need to accomplish. That's another place that we can easily pick up points. And if he's going to flat track those guys and get kind of that, being that I would love to see him in that the kind of Chris Wood vein, where he's in that kind of like 15 to 18 goals in the Premier League season. I think that would be a massive success for him. And I think that's certainly reasonable. One thing that I will slide in here, though, for Liverpool, because they're giving us a slight hint, their primary backup center back, who's Giovanni Leone, actually tore his ACL yesterday when they played. So it sounds like it's a major, I know he was carted off, but it's like a major ACL injury. So now they are down to like Joe Gomez, I think is basically their only backup center back now. So they're going to have to at least get to January with 3 central defenders playing in 4 different competitions. And one of those central defenders is like your age, Mike. Like, I understand that Van Dijk is still good, but I think his legend is kind of outpacing his actual performance now at this stage in his career.
Yes.
He's still very good, but the like poofy ponytail Jesus that he's looked at, again, even the Premier League's primary account was like hyping him elbowing Tarkowski in the head on purpose, like which is another.
I saw that again. Yeah, it's. Again, if it was Arsenal moment of the week, I might start that. If it was Arsenal moment of the week,
oh God, you have so much material. But yeah, anyway, I mean, I think it's never nice to see somebody get hurt, but that is like a spot that we've taken the risk and left position groups thin before, and then had somebody get injured, and it's really been disruptive and led to overplaying and all that type of stuff. I think that's maybe a spot where them going all in on Gahey and not getting it done might crack the door a little bit, because now you're playing a kid, and they sold Kwanzaa too, so they're playing a kid, and then Joe Gomez, who I think is also a backup fullback too. So like they're really in a spot where that could be a potential Achilles heel, at least until mid to late January. So we'll see.
I'll tell you how old Joe Gomez is. Milan almost signed him. Once you hit Serie A age, that's when you know. That's how old he is. So we're gonna
Milan comes knocking.
When Milan comes knocking for a free transfer, you've officially made it to retirement age. That is for 100% sure. But that would be the show for today, man. We did want to do a quick little recap. We didn't want the show to go on. Chris is in a very hectic time of his life right now, so he's been super busy. He hasn't been able to get on with us. So we did absolutely want to put something out this week. Kelly, you want to tell dear listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, at South Metro AFC on the Twitters. We'll keep talking about stuff. We're getting busy with school or with my kids' school and sports and life and all that type of stuff. But I still do manage to tweet a little bit on there about sports and nonsense. So it'd be great to have a follow. Bro, I can't tonight, man. I'm drinking water. I don't have the goof juice tonight to be able to go any further than this.
No. Needless to say, Kelly and I are not in a 24-hour podathon shape.
No,
absolutely.
No, sir.
Honest. I'm going to try to look away from Kelly before he starts doing the goofy Gyökeres thing and say, I've been Mike Hers, your host. This has been Not Another Arsenal Podcast. Live chat, thank you so much for joining us. Not doing that. I'm not looking at you today, Kelly. You can find us on Audioheads can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And, of course, for all you guys that are already at YouTube, you can watch us on YouTube. If you want to see my ugly mug, Kelly's beautiful mug, here we go. Boys and girls, till next time, thank you so much. Cheers.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketty. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.